When I'm at work, I'm a house painter. When I'm at work, it happens all the time, especially if you do a lot of caulking and sanding. You get well, I'm right-handed. I'm mildly ambidextrous as a painter, but I'm much stronger with my right arm, even though that right arm has produced what I'm assuming is nerve damage. I haven't been to the doctor for 20 years, so I don't know, but based upon the people I work with and things we talk about and so on, like I've kind of assessed, because of similar problems, that older and younger, or whatever, of my colleagues. And what's wrong, right? If we're in the trades, if we have a blue collar, we have coworkers. Yeah. We make our money there. That's where we go to get our green. But if you get a lot of green, your coworkers, if you have a white collar, if you have a white collar, probably don't look like this, but I got one on, man. Then your coworkers are your colleagues, right? Whether or not they're your friends. Same with me, man. I'm a bad friend. I'm a bad colleague. I'm a bad coworker. So I'm recognizing it in myself, and I know I'm not so unlike so many of you that you can't relate. I'm making this because I'm filling a niche. I'm making this because I'm saying what I want to hear that I haven't heard said. There's all kinds of things I don't say that matter deeply to me that are said. And that's where I go. Not to say that what I'm saying hasn't been said, not at all. The only reason I know anything at all is because of the things other people have said. But even really famous people, pop artists, pop music, classical musicians, all the famous ones, and all the ones who are only famous to specialists or elitists in a field. And when I say elitists in a field, like, it doesn't mean it. We use that word elite and we just peg it upon pretty much, around here, rich folk. Specifically, even around here, a lot of times, mostly rich white folk. Though in America there is a very strong, rich class of every race. It's just there's more white people here. So there are more white dynasties because there are more white people. But among every people, there are dynasties. And the way that we attribute value to money, or what money is always underpinned by something real. And this is where I'm going to be extremely controversial. I've never heard anyone say it. I don't think there's anyone on the earth today. Well, there are actually, but there are few on the earth today who agree with or believe what I'm saying. And it will take years and years and years digging beneath the surface. Like, I'm going to say this today. I hope in 1,000 years this makes more sense. I'm doing something I don't normally do, which is updating my video. Most of the time I just make comments. I've always just made comments or try to get to it next time, but I wanted to make this note because when I'm saying no one's ever heard this, I never say it. So I had to insert this. because I think it's germane to the point. That fiat currency, which most people, even though if you're watching this, you may well be familiar with that term, fiat currency, and have a particular take on it. Pretty much every take on it is like a bad one. There aren't many people out there like being like, fiat currency is awesome. Now, the people who control the fiat currency, they don't talk about fiat currency at all. They use it as a predetermined, like as a given. It's just a given. And it's not called fiat currency. It's called money. The underpinning of the entire world economy. Still, some people say it's barely holding on. But the power of fiat currency has so far produced, first of all, fiat currency it's the most distributed, because people talk about Bitcoin. Bitcoin is, in some sense, the next level of fiat currency, and in another sense has actually become an appendix, a reservoir, a repository of alternative fiat currency, an appendix, still a functional appendix of fiat currency. But fiat currency it might be the greatest invention ever. Ever. We'll see how it plays out exactly. Now, fiat currency has been hijacked because we associate fiat currency with Wall Street, what's the word? Chicanery? Chicanery? Something like that. Wall Street showmen. Hustlers. Hustlers on a big level. And they're out there. They're there. And it depends what we mean by earnings and assets. Because some people invest for earnings and some people invest for assets. Some people don't know the difference. But Wall Street currently is over-leveraged into extracting money from the population, people, real people. Wall Street is being leveraged currently. It's not totally this way, but it's currently over-leveraged in using itself as the means to extract money from the population, even unknowingly, through 401ks, money managers, all that kind of thing. People who are playing the market, not looking at assets, not looking at the future. But even in this corrupted, it's not a corrupt system. It's a corrupted system. For instance, I'm not corrupt. I'm corrupted. What do I mean? I mean, my motivating principle, the reason why I'm alive, is because of that spark that I was given. I didn't choose to be born. My parents didn't choose for me to be born. I was an accident of teenagers. One of them kept me. One of them. I'll give you 2 guesses. Which one? Gotta have my whites. Gotta have my whites, man. But But anyway, what I want to get to next time is the brilliance of fiat currency. Corrupted, not corrupt, but corrupted as it is, its basic unit of measure fluctuates. So on any given day, we can reduce fiat currency to a basic unit of measure. Sometimes it's a little more gold. Sometimes it's a little less gold. Sometimes it's this. Sometimes it's small cap. Sometimes it's big cap. I don't know. I'm just using words I saw before. I'm not sure. I don't actually know. Small cap investments. I had a small cap fund that did well when I was a younger man. It had a 401k, which I've already tapped out and spent long ago. Give me a nice time to try something different on my own, which failed, but I learned a lot, even about myself. But fiat currency is underpinned in fluctuations, but essentially it's attached to trust and meaning. Like trust and meaning as abstract concepts of something that reach beneath the surface. We talk about emergence if we're empiricists, which is to say if we're materialists. Fine. Emergence is fine. And there are different theories of emergence. The only one we're interested in is the one that corresponds, because there are also multiple theories of transcendence. Something from above, well, something from below. Something from outside. Something beyond, something from within. Something all about. Fiat isn't fake, so we call it fiat currency, which is so often considered fake currency. But fiat, is related to fiat lux, let there be light. Fiat currency is let there be currency. This is one of the things about phonetic symbolism. The teleological pull. Teleology is like the way in which the end pulls forth from the beginning. It's the counterpoint to, I think, entelechy, which is a little bit like a seed. Entelechy is like the future is already built into the original. And I got a squirrel on my ceiling. He's scratching and bugging me, but this is one of the colder nights of the year, so praise be. Don't eat my wires and don't chew through my thingy, because then we're both going to be upset. Don't chew through my ceiling, little squirrely. But be warm, be safe. I hope you got food. If you come to my front door tomorrow morning, I'll throw you some seeds. I know you don't understand me, but wouldn't it be something if you did? Who knows then? One day they might. The teleological pull of the future. Taking up that crinkled sea anemone, right? Because a sea anemone or a squid, the way they can move every which way, but they're also so beautifully symmetric. Their symmetries can take these peculiar smoky plumes of form that are, even though they're formal, they appear topological. They can be expressed topologically using a peculiar mathematics that can... There are ways to describe topologies that actually correspond. For instance, there's a way to represent an octopus in topologies that actually relates and is structurally integral to the underlying form. But as it so happens, there are also infinite topologies of an octopus that disregard, deny, and do not describe. Even though they are over that form, there are topologies of an octopus that can be conceived that are not formal, that don't coalesce. Formal when I mean like three-dimensional or four-dimensional movement and all that kind of thing. However many dimensions, but so one of the things that I'm assuming is going to increasingly happen over the next couple 100 years is movement away from topologies toward formalities, formalism, form, and but not abandoning topologies, but topologies that are married to formalities. Mathematically, philosophically, and scientifically, physics, chemistry, bio. Never mind. Yeah. Spiritually, all that. Both in theory, exposition, and also in personal practice, attention, attainment. But yeah, anyway, what I want to get to next time, fiat currency. Currency, even though we're talking about money, currency is what electricity is. Electricity moves at the speed of light. Fiat looks, let there be light. Fiat currency, let there be light. Speed. That's why I'm making this video. Because the church I belong to exists today. But I will not be a part of this church that exists today until 1,000 years from now. So the church, the capital T, church, capital C, that exists today, even outside itself, it exists today, but I can't go there, I can't belong to it, I can't join it today. My spirit will join it then. It's already happened. Now, not all of the future has already happened, but there are nodes through time. I don't know many things, and I haven't known this for very long. About 7 years, but the thing is, I'm almost 46. I'm almost 46. It's like little kids. When you're a little kid, you're like, if you're 8, you want to be 12, right? You want to be 13. You want to be 10. Let's face it. When you're in the single digits, it's all about 10. You know, nobody talks about that. Us old folk, right? I'm 45. Pretty sure. 45. I'm going to be 46 in just over a month. A couple days over a month, I'll be 46. But when you're a little kid, you want to push it up. And I'm trying to think of what number it came to when I wanted to push it down. I wanted to push it down today a lot. I was at work, people's house. I was at a people's house. Professors. An Ivy League school. Retired. Brilliant people. Beautiful people. Different than me. But also similar to me. The woman, her father, published, wrote about, I don't know what he did, compiled all of Proust's letters into a 21-volume set. What? I think it's 21, thereabouts. That's crazy. But anyway, I'm probably too far off. I've taken tangents, and there's much interesting. Maybe I'll get back to it. But what I wanted to do with this video was, well, first I want to be honest, because I haven't done it for a while. I'm not promoting it, it's just an act of being honest. I smoke and I drink. If you're already 30 or 40, 50 or whatever, like you don't need to hear what I'm about to say. But if you're in your 20s, you know, it's like, yeah, I'm hypocritical because I'm saying don't do what I do. So, I've got my awesome sweatshirt, rocking my big beard, got my bandana, real badass. No, like, to some people, like, you have to recognize, like, if you're a real badass, you're looking at me and you know already, I'm the biggest wimp in the world, right? But if you do have that white collar I was picking on, and I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that way, because now because you're different than me, as if I'm not embarking upon style with as if I'm not filling out a form. It just so happens all of this is happenstantial, but just like any uniform, you give a kid a uniform, and each one's going to wear it a little... Right. That's why Mussolini was fucking... the first of the... Dolings. Yeah, there'll be 3 of them. She was the first. Mussolini's essentially the Mary Magdalene of Dolings. For instance, in the Catholic tradition, if we had to, I'm being presumptuous. I'm embarking upon the other people's ground. Because here in time, I'm not yet part of this church which is today, except for that I am, because I'm part of that predetermined node of the past. Nodes. The future fills out like if you have a very corrugated, very embossed paper towel, and it has to be very embossed. Can't be Scott bath tissue. I don't know. Is that the right word? TP. You know, it can't be just some thin, flat piece, but something very corrugated. and you put a drop of liquid on it as it disperses, those corrugations at the edges, at the ends, kind of split out a bit. Not all pretty much all valleys, but not all peaks are saturated, but like expand that part a lot, or like veins, or like, I don't know what they call it, because like cancer, they say metastasizes, like, spreads out, nexuses, and it, but isn't that interesting? There's not a word for that, for growth. See, this is one of the ways that the devil, Satan, I'm sorry I'm laughing in using those words. I guess I hate the word the devil. I hate the word Satan. I think in the Eastern Church, there's a tradition, or in certain sects of the Eastern Church, I don't know if it's like because there are Roman Catholic Eastern churches that are part of the Roman Catholic Church that are more Eastern Orthodox in nature, into the everyday atheist or Protestant or armchair religious like myself, can kind of appear like so aloof compared to what I'm accustomed to, that it's just so shocking until you understand why. It's like, yeah, there's all this brilliance here, nobody owns it. There's all this beautiful church here, nobody owns it. All these people that are administering the service have nothing. Especially in the Byzantine, I think it's the Byzantine rite of the Catholic Church. It's like essentially Orthodox Christianity of the East that is Catholic. And it just has to do with the way in which that tree has split. And it's part of the same tree, the way, way up and on one side. It's a big side. Of that same tree that Hagar, and Sarah are part of. Ishmael. Isaac. The covenant was made with Ibrahim. And what the Holy Bible, it's not missing it, it's there. And it's at the first level between the lines. But they say read between the lines. So you read between the lines and you get another line. And you read between the lines and you get another line. So now all of a sudden, and you do that with every line. The problem with people who are always like, this means this, this means this, this means this, this means this, which is me. The problem with us doing that, where it's like we find a line and we read between it and we get a line, means this. But there are infinite spaces behind that line, especially because we're supposed to read between every line. if we read between every line in the book, if we read between every line in the book, you know, if we read between every line in the scroll, sorry, more like, can we turn our hands? Wait. Wait. So I'm rolling it this way. So I'm rolling it this way. Right. So I'm rolling it. So between every line. Then we can take all the first lines. We can throw the whole book away because we have a new book. Because we read between every line. Okay, now we have a bunch of new lines. Well, then we can look behind that. It's an infinite process. Yet, in time, it collapses. Once again, I can't remember where I was going with that, but that's a good time to segue into what I was actually going to talk about. Got to be honest. Right, I was going to be honest. I'm still a smoker, and what I was going to say before was like, don't do it, you know. If you're in your 20s and you're struggling, if I had it to do over again, because you're doing what you're doing, right? If you're watching this and you're that young, if you're watching this video and you're that young, it's because in your heart, you're all God, 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 God. And in your mind, you're all like math, history, science, creativity, art. Be that dance, be that painting, be that figure skating, health, physical well-being. You're into some combination of those things that are all drive toward very individual meaning, as you, like me, in some sense, we must be somewhat alike. Oh, that's a philosophical presumption, right? Much like the philosophical contemplation of non-existence. That idea has taken up too much intellectual capital is invested in philosophical ideas that are related to non-being. Eternity is a singularity, but it is structured. And it is not static. It's hard to talk about, like, for instance, we think there's stasis and there's dynamism. What if dynamism is impossible? Or rather, what if stasis, I'm sorry, totally said the absolutely opposite. What if stasis is impossible, totally impossible? You know, for instance, and what I mean by that is ultra physically. What do I mean by ultra physically? I mean, for instance, theoretically, absolute zero is stasis. You know, the temperature, Kelvin, absolute zero is stasis, materially, empirically, right? That doesn't mean that that's, or empirically so far as we know. That's the assumptions. It's like, well, there's no assumptions, that's the science. But the assumption is that we know what that we perceive all things that move. For instance, at absolute zero, which would have to be absolute density, but I don't think black holes are absolute zero. They give off some energy. There's clearly movement. And then I've heard that in physics the concept of negative temperatures. But as it so happens, negative temperatures are actually really, 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 really hot because the negativity has to do somehow with like inversions. But anyway, say something one could reach absolute zero, where, so far as we know, stasis is achieved, but that the statement that stasis is achieved is really a presumption. It might not be as big a presumption that I have the right to talk about something I don't know at all, that I'm armchair quarterbacking. Yeah, I wanted to get to topology and free will. Not because I know anything about topology, but I feel like I could be wrong. But like topology is surfaces. If it's a surface, it's topology. Hardcore crochet macrame, topology. Topology. A sea anemone. Topology. There's more than that, but there's certainly topological, or topologies can be that way. Topology. But also beautiful topologies. Well, actually, I guess, I pressed record when the spirit struck. And now, though, I've kind of blown off my steam. So I'll leave this as a preface to the next time when I want to talk about topology as free will. Because you can take this item, it's not going to be like this. It's going to be like this. And this is where we are. This is the spiritual realm, except for a place has begun to hold. And this thing is swirling around, but something has taken hold. It won't let go. A fire is burning. A fire, a light, has been lit in the darkness. You know how there's that saying, that dark saying, I'm paraphrasing, but a light was lit in the darkness, and the darkness perceived it not. God put a light in the darkness, and the darkness perceived it not. The thing is, a light has recently been lit, and the darkness sees it now. These things are bound to happen, right? Evolution evolves. God's kingdom grows. A fire is forging. That gives me relief. It's the only thing that keeps me alive. Because mostly I feel pretty bad. And I'm not just saying it because I think it, But I've seen it. And I've seen what it will become. And it won't look like this thing that it's doing now. Unfortunately, I can't use this to show what it will look like. But it'll be unfortunately. But it will be very beautiful. But yeah, anyway, the whole idea of a topology is, let's say this was shaped a little differently. Let's say it was more elastic, right? We could build it into this beautiful egg. This beautiful, twisted, kind of like one of them sweet aerodynamic Nerf footballs. There's no reason why it couldn't go from that to that. A shell, a vertical shell that's pointy on both ends, that wraps around itself, self-contained. Beautiful little egg. But not that such that it should stay like that, but simply that we go from something, a topology that looks like this, to a topology over a form, because everything's actually formal. Topologies without structural underpinnings is just magically or theurgically, daemonically, iamblichus, etc., etc. It's a big etceteras, warring against principalities, wars in heavenly realms, because we're coming to a new heaven, a new earth. Eternity is being restructured. The spiritual realm, the heavenly realms, heaven itself, in time now as we live, is being restructured. And we have everything to do with it. Us, you, me. Do good, do bad, do nothing, do whatever. It might be your job to do good. It might be your job to do bad. Pharaoh didn't harden Pharaoh's heart. God hardened Pharaoh's heart. And Pharaoh obeyed. Who wants that job? Not me. It might be your job to do nothing because you ain't got nothing good to do. And doing nothing is the greatest gift you can do to the world. And that's what God wants for you. Another hard pill to swallow, but part of perfection. Because perfection is made. The word perfection itself more or less means through making. Perfection has come to you. Well, what's perfection then? The omega point! Nietzsche talks about eternal recurrence, but it's not like that. The omega point is the next alpha. But there's so much more force, so much more refinement. All that shit, truth, and you come to a higher truth. Everything in between, and that image of the Vesica Pisces. It's because two circles come together. The truth and the bullshit. Everything that doesn't, because we need some of the bullshit for that truth, and we need some of the truth for that bullshit. Everything inside stays and gets refined like a diamond, like a little black hole, like another singularity, like the omega point, to the next thing, the new truth, more a higher structured eternity, the next alpha, which will then explode with more force, more freedom, and more control. Next generation. So it's not eternal recurrence, it's an eternal spiral. And every generation, every time you pass the 360 or the 0 point, okay, we've been here before, but not like this. We've been here before, but not like this. That's not what I as an individual do. I experience a little bit of it, but that's our life also, like a Vesica Pisces. Like the spiral that gets bigger and then spirals down. If we do it perfectly. Just like God does. God did. God is doing. God will do. The Alpha and the Omega. A new heaven, a new earth. The Omega point. The perfection of everything that has ever existed before in both the spiritual realm and in the material realm and even in eternity. The Holy Ghost is the king of the spiritual realm. God is the king of heaven. And Jesus is the king of earth. Or at least, if we're bringing it all down like that, with the men. People are resistant to the deification of women. Speaking in more or less the vernacular. I'm speaking in the vernacular of the day. So this language is heavy laden. I hope you can sift through it. And not only you, I hope I can sift through it. Because it's not perfect. It's not perfect. It's the language that seeks perfection, even in its faults. But anyway, what I want to talk about next time, which is what I wanted to talk about today. I said I'm losing steam, but I'm getting a little bit more. But that's just to explain what I want to talk about. And this is just a way to remind myself. What I want to talk about is how if we're all points on this surface, let's say this surface doesn't have this pattern, it's not this color, let's just say, try to look at the surface. I'm sorry I'm not using a better prop, and let's say we all exist as pinpricks on this surface. However we're arranged, structured, whatever the density is from here to there, population densities are, whatever the map of peoples are on this souls, whatever the map of souls are on this fabric. We're structured in a really peculiar way right now, where like the center's here. This is where we are. This is where God is. This is, this area, the center of this lit area. Let's say that's where God is, right? And like, we can barely see God. Only a little points there, and there's this massive thing growing out to the side. Here's where the I am is. But there's this other big thing coming out saying, I am not. That's kind of what's happening. And the topology shouldn't be doing that. The topology should be forming into a perfect infinite shape, right? Because this kind of crinkling of an object is infinite. This is literally infinite. Every time you do this, it's different. And it can go on forever with a finite object. Mathematically, it couldn't. Unless we calculate with expressible numbers. Because all the math that we do with real numbers are truncations of infinite processes. That's not how the world works. It's what it looks like because the numbers are so big, but they're definite. That's the cosmos, Perfect order, every which way. The only reason it looks fucked up is because of free will, our free will. But not just us, every living thing, everything. Even inanimate objects. Don't you fucking dare call me a panpsychic.